PR Connections Radio presents
Well, hello, ladies, and thank both of you for being on here. Dr. Sandra Cosgrove is on here, one of my good friends and mentors, and oh my gosh, and she's one of those ladies that you don't mind taking her hand and jumping off the cliff with. And I have Donna Lee, who is another great mentor and really good friend of mine, and she is a Vietnam veteran. And I want both you ladies on here because this is going to we're making history today. This is the first show of many, but I would like to really have the decent and intense conversation surrounding women and our barriers. But this evening, being it is Black History Month, I wanted to have a subject of Shirley Chisholm and the barriers that us as women, minority women, veteran women face. And so could you please introduce yourself? And I'm going to start off with you, Dr. Sandra Cosgrove.
Sure. So Dr. Sandra Cosgrove. I'm a history professor at the College of Southern Nevada. So it's the community college here. So I spend a lot of time doing survey courses, so the kind of broad swath of history. But I get students some just came out of high school, I have students that look just like Donna. So I have students from all age ranges and all backgrounds. And so Shirley Chisolm is someone that I like to talk about a lot because my students can really relate to her.
Right. Yes. And Donna Lee, could you please introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Donna Lee. I am a Vietnam era veteran. I was in the Navy for 20 years. And once I come out, I am still serving our veterans and military community by helping them with resources and whatever else needs they may have, furniture, food, whatever. I try to make sure they get that and accommodations. I'm here to continue to serve, to help any way I can. And Evelyn is doing a fantastic job, and I support her in every way.
Thank you. So let's just dive into it, ladies.
Absolutely.
So Dr. Sandra Cosgrove, being you are an expert and you do teach history, and could you tell us a little bit background about Shirley Chisholm and the things, the barriers and things that she went through, please? Can you give us some information on there?
Sure. So her parents actually were immigrants from Barbados, and they immigrated into New York up into Brooklyn. And this was in the 1920s, and her father was entrepreneurial and, tried to have his own business. And he faced the same types of struggles as African Americans who migrated out of the South and went up into places like Brooklyn and Harlem and Chicago, that there was, institutional discrimination that he had to deal with. After there was 3 girls in their family, this is when the Depression started. And so Shirley's mom decided to send the 3 girls to live with her grandmother in Barbados for a certain amount of time. And I think they ended up being down there almost 11 years. And while they were down there in Barbados, Shirley ended up kind of being the surrogate mom to her sisters. And so she had a lot of responsibility early in life. But when you read her autobiography, it's not like, oh, woe is me, I was having to take care of my sisters. It was more, this was what I needed to do. And so I, stepped up and I got it done. But then she talks about, and you can tell early in life, going to school and being really good at school, being really good at math and being really good at cursive writing and being really good and not feeling like she was being challenged enough and that she could do more, but feeling very confined, being in Barbados in this like little 1-room school with all the other children in there. She always had this feeling that she was being held back in some way, and it was very frustrating for her. But she knew she needed to kind of keep that inside as a girl, and then as a woman. And I think it helps to explain why she became so outspoken later in life, because you can only hold stuff in for so long, and then it's going to come out. Mm-hmm. So when she went and moved back with her parents, and they were living in Brooklyn, she ended up going to Columbia and became a teacher. And she thoroughly loves teaching, but you could tell she felt like, well, this is what women get to do, that other opportunities were not available to her. especially being a Black woman, but women were not allowed to be astrophysicists. Women were not allowed to be, super mathematicians and going into computer science and stuff. So she went into education, early childhood education. And then when she came out and after, there's funny when you read her autobiography, the biggest problem she had is that she was small. And so people kept thinking she was younger than she was. And so she kept having to try and figure out how to look older, which I thought was kind of funny the way she describes it. But she got a teaching job and then quickly decided she wanted to be maybe a principal, or maybe she wanted to be a superintendent. Eventually, she ends up being the superintendent of all early childhood education in New York.
Wow.
And so this was not somebody, that if barrier was put in front of her, she was going to let it stop her. But then as you know, because you guys follow education in Las Vegas, politics gets involved with education a lot because that's where the funding comes from. And so she, as kind of the head of early childhood education, kept trying to interface with the state legislature to get more funding, get more positions, was frustrated. Nobody wanted to give her more money. So what did she do? She ran for the legislature. She goes, okay, well, then I'll go to that job. And so she was one of the first Black women to run for the legislature and successfully run for the legislature in New York, and just got in there and fought her heart out to get more funding for her kids and to make sure that the children were being taken care of. But she kept having these episodes where she was like, okay, I got this done, and now I realize it's actually another level that I need to go to get the next thing done. Exactly. And that's when she said, oh, okay, I'm going to need to go to Congress. But while she was doing that, in New York, in the boroughs, they have these like neighborhood Democratic committees. So every neighborhood has a committee, and there's like a president and a vice president and a treasurer. And then that's how you decide who in your neighborhood might want to run for alderman or might want to eventually run for the legislature. And eventually Shirley started realizing that's where the power was happening. That if you could be president of your neighborhood committee, you got to decide who's going to go to serve in the legislature or who's going to be the next alderman. But when she was realizing this is when she also realized that the Democratic Party wanted Black people to vote for the white Democrats, but didn't want Black people to run and hold power in the Democratic Party. And so Shirley was talking to the women about, we need to make sure women can run for office. But the men were also feeling frustrated because no Black people were able to run for those positions. And so the men and women got together and they were trying to push back to say it needs to be open elections. It needs to be fair. If we run against you and win, you need to let us in. But this is the first time in Shirley Chisholm's life as she was trying to kind of push back against white liberals. We're not talking about Republicans. We're talking about Democrats pushing back against them, that the Black men said, well, you need to sit down. It's my turn first. And she had a very, excuse me, no, if I want to run and you want to run, let's, make the better person win. And so she spent a lot of her life fighting against really white liberals, white Democrats, trying to figure out, get positions of power. At the same time, she was battling with Black men because they were also feeling like they were not being given opportunities. So she works her way up through kind of local politics. That gets her into a position that she is then able to be the first Black woman to be elected to Congress in 1968. And there is all kinds of videos of Shirley Chisholm being interviewed about her life on YouTube. I was watching a bunch of them last night. She is hilarious. I could not stop laughing the way she would talk about things, because she would talk about incidents like last night I watched this interview and she said she got to Congress. She knew there was a cafeteria downstairs, and that's where members of Congress could go and get a bite to eat and then go back up to vote. She went down, no one was down there. So she said, I was hungry that night. She fills up her plate, and she was just a wisp of a woman. So I can just imagine she's like filling everybody. Went to the first table and sat down. She's eating, and this white man walks in and just starts yelling at her. How dare she sit at that table? And she didn't know what she had done wrong. And this gentleman says, there's tables for the states and you're sitting at the wrong state. You're sitting in Georgia, you're in New York, get up. And so she said she just kind of looked at him for a minute, took a deep breath, and she said, well, I've already started eating, and I know that you don't want to sit with a Black woman. And it seems to me that you're really hungry, because that's the only reason I can see that you're so angry is you're probably really hungry. You go get yourself a big old plate. And she was showing him the collard greens and stuff she had. You get yourself a big old plate. And then she said, you know what? I don't want you to feel bad sitting next to me because I know you'll feel bad. There's a table right over there, and you can sit at that table and you don't even have to see me. She said he just looked at her for a minute, went, yeah, I am kind of hungry, and then went and got a plate and sat somewhere else. I laughed so hard when I watched that.
Mm-hmm.
But she dealt with this stuff all the time. And that's how she learned to be very calm. And I could just see like the early childhood educator in her, that clicking on. Oh, are you having a temper tantrum? Maybe you need a snack.
Yes.
And it maybe a nap. Maybe that would help you. Because that's the way her voice sounded. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the funniest thing. But then again, this is a woman who's doing the best she can to help her community. And it should not surprise any of us that she said, no, I need to be president. If I'm climbing up and trying to get access to power, every single level, should not surprise anybody that she said, okay, I guess I have to be president because there's certain things I can't even get done in Congress. So this was 1972. So this is the second term for Richard Nixon. Remember, the Vietnam War was terrible. There was rioting going on. There was all kinds of horrible things. And so rightly, the Democrats were afraid of Richard Nixon getting reelected. And so when Shirley, came out and announced that she was running, her speech when she said she's running, she says, there's many of you who are telling me not to do this, and I've ghost written many of your speeches, so you need to watch yourself. And she said it right then and there. And we know exactly that she was not talking about Republicans telling her to sit down. It was other Democrats telling her to sit down. And she said, nope, it's a free country. I have the right to run. I'm going to run. And then when you read her autobiography, her tagline was always unbought and unbossed.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the unbought was, the corporate interest and things like that. But the unbossed was members of her own party and Black men.
Yes.
Right.
And so she writes about how when she was running for office, it was white liberal women who came for her first. Oh, if you run, you're going to split the ticket, and then Richard Nixon's going to get elected, and it's going to be all your fault. And she said, well, we can hash this out. I don't have to not run. Let me put my platform out there and people can decide. And so the white women were like turning their back on her, saying, we're not going to support you. We realize this might be the first time a woman can get elected, but this is just too consequential for us to lose this election. Does that sound familiar?
Absolutely.
But then who came for her next was the Black men. And they did that. What they said to her is, if there's going to be a first Black president, it needs to be a Black man. So you need to stand down. And she basically told them all no. She said, I'm going to keep running. If you don't want to vote for me, you don't have to vote for me, but I'm not going to be bullied by my own party and people who should be supporting me into telling me that I have to sit down. And so she went ahead and ran. Obviously, she didn't get the nomination. And the person, that they put up ended up losing to Richard Nixon anyway. Anyway. And she, went back to Congress. She went back and got reelected and served in Congress until 1982, until Ronald Reagan came in. And then she just felt like she wasn't being very effective and could do other things. And you would look at her life and say, she had all these victories, but yet she also had a lot of loss. And the people who should have supported her didn't.
True.
How did she feel about this? And we are so lucky that so many people interviewed her and just let her speak for herself and videotaped her. It's not been that long. These are not like black and white grainy videos. This is full color from the 1980s. And she said, you know what? I'm proud of myself. I was a fighter. I never stood down when they told me to stand down. I never backed down when they told me to back down. I realized that I was going to have to deal with it from Black men and liberal women and other Democrats, as well as dealing with the racism from the other party. But that's just their problem and not mine.
That's right.
Right. And so, and so she's such an inspirational person. I remember when I first read about her when I was going to college, I'm like, oh my God, she's like my people. I love her. Because I can relate to her, that fighting, don't tell me what to do type stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, I love this woman. I wish I would have met her and given her a big hug. But then I started realizing, wait a minute, why don't I know more about Shirley Chisolm? Why am I just reading a lot about her in graduate school? I mean, I kind of knew who she was, but I didn't know a lot about her. And then I got thinking, wait a minute, why don't we talk the truth about Shirley Chisolm? And so I was even last night looking at Wikipedia and the Women's Center and all the biographies of her. And they always say, and she faced discrimination and she faced hardship. Yeah, from who?
Her own people.
From who? Yeah. It's always
Yep.
this
And then.
always this passive voice. It never says from white liberal women, from black men, from Democrats. And it makes me think we're hearing about how Ron DeSantis in Florida or Greg Abbott in Texas are suppressing, real history being taught. I feel like the places I lived, real history was not being taught because I don't know enough about Shirley Chisholm. And so I think there's suppression of our history all the way around. And it's the same reason on Martin Luther King Day, we talk about the I Have a Dream speech and not the letter from the Birmingham jail, because letter from the Birmingham jail makes white liberals feel uncomfortable.
Yep.
Yes. And it's still happening today. This is still going on. And this is why I wanted you both on here and Donna. And I know that you can relate because of what you went through and where you're from and how you got into the Navy. And I would really love for you to get part of this and to intermingle this, because we've had this conversation too about Black veteran men, and I'm still going through it myself, and I'm very confused about that. It's like I go through enough with white women, and that's why I have to have Sandra on the phone calls or have you on there, because I'm going through it because I'm not listened or being listened to. And then I would really want you to touch on your experience too with growing up where you grew up. I don't want to give all of it. And what you went through back there too. And I see you were shaking your head the whole time. And you're from the Vietnam. You were in the Vietnam War. So
right.
Can you please collaborate and respond to what some of Dr. Sandra Carver was talking about?
Absolutely. Actually, all of that I kind of, like I said, relate to it because I lived it as well. And mine started when I was in high school, when my geography teacher told me that, I might as well sit down now because I'll never get 50 miles outside of Lewisburg, West Virginia. And he said, you just won't happen because your place is here and working, like in fast foods or whatever, you're not going to go anywhere. And I'm, okay, I'll show you. And I've been halfway around the world already. But when I went into the military, that's where the real test began. Because number one, first of all, Vietnam era. Okay. That's a man's world, not a woman's world to be in the man's world, but I was there. And my first tour in the military was, how can I get out of here? I don't like this. I want to leave, because all the male bosses that were, of white descent or whatever, they didn't like me because number one, not only was I a woman, but I was also a Black woman who thought I was intelligent. And I was supposed to be one of those who just, be an errand person, but I wasn't that type of person. I was raised by parents who says, you are equal. You can do whatever it is you want to do if you set your mind to it. So that's my brain set, So I went through thinking that, and then finally got to a point to where it wasn't really working. And I just wanted to curl up, leave the military and move on, go back home and be like the rest of my folks who are still doing what they did 50 years ago.
True.
So I had my senator who is a white gentleman. He told me, he said, Donna, you're better than this. You need to do what you need to do. And I'm like, I can do that. My dad told me that. And from that point on, they told me what you need to do is you need to listen and not talk and learn. So what I did, I learned everybody's position. And when they went on leave or something, their work usually piles high, but I was able to take over for them because I knew how to do their jobs. And my supervisor was like, oh, wow, this is a smart girl, But there was still a lot of discrimination. There were still things I didn't get to do because, like, for an example, rank. I never went up in rank past E6 because I wasn't supposed to. And they would find ways to knock me down from that or find excuses for me not to get it. And I'm like, I want to go home. I don't like this anymore. I want to leave this place. But that little birdie kept saying, no, you belong here. You have a purpose and you're going to continue. So I went through the next 20 years doing that. And as you said, once I come out and couldn't find my way or whatever, I said, okay, what I'm going to do next? So I asked the man upstairs and he told me, go west, young lady, go west. So I took four little kids, moved back to California from Virginia. And first few months, I was actually homeless with my kids. I wasn't on the ground homeless, but I was on people's floors homeless. And that is not what I went 20 years military to do. So I picked myself up again. I said, okay, we're going to do this. So I went, got myself an education, got a master's degree, and Las Vegas called me and said, come on, girl, we need you over here. And I said, okay. And everything I did, everywhere I went, it was always, what are you doing here? I need some coffee. And I said, okay. And I walk away. And when I went to different organizations and started building myself up, the people that I felt should have supported me, helped me, did not. And as you said, it was the black men. The black men that did not think I was worthy, and they don't like black women who has an education and has a brain. And the women was even worse because you would think sister to sister, they would help you rise above. But it was more of, and Ellen, you know this, how dare you? I mean, you don't belong to, why are you doing this?
Mm-hmm.
And all the way through up until even present day, I go to places, I'm invited to a lot of different organizations and events and stuff. And people come up to me. The men has finally settled down, not the black men, the other men settled down, they accepted me and they trust me and they ask me for advice and information. All the women are like, who is she? I even had a white lady ask me, she said, who are you and how did you get in here? Who brought you here? And when she found out that people knew me and knew what I do, she screamed and said, who are you? Where did you come from? And I just smiled at her and says, I'm from West Virginia. My mom was another, and she didn't take anything, and neither do I. And I just smiled and walked away. And so it's still an uphill struggle for me to get things done or to move forward because our brothers and sisters are not supportive. They look at me and want to know why am I in the positions that I'm in, and they're not. First of all, you got to get up and get in that position. It's not going to be handed to you. You got to get up there and show that you're worthy of it and take your place. And I struggled at all my life, all my career, and I'm still struggling with it because we don't have the support to get us where we all need to be. Now, we're in position, but if you don't have that support to help you, you're not going anywhere. And it's an uphill struggle.
Right.
Yes.
And I'm just, I'm really, really admire what you two ladies are doing because I'm about ready to turn the torch over to you because I'm been around a little while, and but I'm not ready to give it up yet because we need to take our position. We don't need to be out there wearing short skirts and shaking our booties and stuff like that. We need to show that we are intelligent and we are capable of doing the things that we want to do and to be in like Shirley's position and just say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that and do it. Nothing is holding you back but you. We need to take and stand our ground and get to where we want to go. Nothing's stopping you. You just need to keep pushing forward and, get close to those people who are willing to help you. It doesn't matter who they are, where they come from. If they're in the position and they're on the good side of the law or whatever, then that's who we want to rub arms with. Because those are the ones who are going to help you rise up. But there's no shortcuts and there's no way you're going to do this cutting corners. So you got to do it on up and up. And you got to keep, whether people want to say it or not, you got to keep the good Lord in your background or right beside you so he can help pull you up when you need to be pulled up. Because I am so happy. I am so happy that I am who I am. I may not be the princess. I may not be sexy, but I got a brain and I'm getting where I want to be. And I'm going to take as many women as I can with me because we deserve it. We earned it. And that's our purpose. That's all I got to say.
Amen.
Yep.
And Sandra, I just want to piggyback on what the beautiful message that Donna said, but also too that me and you start having this conversation. Probably about 3 weeks or so ago, right? When you had your Saturdays where we all get on there and you talked about Shirley Chisolm. But one of the other conversation I have with both of you actually is why are the women that are running for positions, including the president including the vice president, including all the women that have came after her, Clinton, all of them, and including the women here in the state, and even why are we not talking about her? Why are we not saying it? Because to be really honest, she did a whole lot. She set the whole guardrail, the everything, right? For empowerment, right, Sandra?
Yep.
And I know we've had this conversation. So can you like kind of speak on that? Because we really talked about this, and this is what inspired me actually to do this for this month, because it's Black History Month, but it inspired me because why are we not speaking her name out here?
Well, I mean, she was a woman that did not do as she was told. And then when they would tell her to do it and she would say no, she would say, she was always very, congenial. We can compete. I'm not afraid to compete with you. We'll compete. And if you win, you win. If I win. And that would just make the other side more angry at her.
Yes.
Right. She'd get more angry. But she was just not a woman who fit the mold. This is the way, we're supposed to position relationships between Black and white people in the Democratic Party. She definitely wasn't that. And she was somebody that if she thought she was doing the right thing, she was going to do it. She was not going to back down.
Yes. And I know I read up on her too. And I know she had some problems with, I think it was Wallace too. And she them two ended up being friends. And then she thought at the end that when they became friends, it hurt her in her political things that she was doing because she became friends with him. But actually it was not that him hurt her. He might have, because it's really sad that we cannot be friends with the Republicans or the independents or the party. That doesn't make sense to me, because we all sit on the toilet the same way, and I'm not understanding of that really. And then Donna, I wanted to hit on too how you have you're doing both courts, both drug treatment courts, and how things are happening to where I thought you're doing both courts in Henderson and North Las Vegas, that around Thanksgiving you had given me a call and asked me if I could help you with turkeys. And I was calling everybody. I think even Sandra, I even called you. You know anybody getting turkeys? And it was sad to me that here we're on Thanksgiving and Christmas, right? I mean, those are like two major important holidays. And you don't live in North Las Vegas. I don't live in North Las Vegas. Sandra doesn't live in North Las Vegas, but here you are doing this. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that, please? Because that was very interesting on how that all came about.
Yeah. Well, as I said before, I love doing things, thinking outside the box and doing what people say is impossible to do. And the one thing you're learning about me, if you cut me, I believe veteran. I believe active duty, because that is my passion. That's what I do. And to listen to these young folks and even older ones that are in the program, and the only reason they're in the program is because they hit a stop in the road to where they didn't know which way to go, and they just gave up and just got frustrated and got in a little trouble. And the whole purpose of the program is to help those who lost their way, who want to be on the doing good and support and help their families, but don't know how. So Judge Russell back in New York, Buffalo, New York, 2008, I believe, he started the veterans courts because he had too many veterans coming in his court that all the crimes were basically the same. They had DUIs and got drunk because they couldn't take it anymore, and they just went out and got drunk and just started driving, or they get frustrated and they beat their partners and stuff like that. Little things like that, and all of them had basically the same reason. I don't know how to take care of my family. I don't have the resources. I don't know where to go. In the military, most time you provided a house, you provided enough money to support your family and your spouses. They get used to that. They get used to that good money. They get used to that good life. And then when you get out of service without any guidance on what to do next, then they come down and say, why aren't you doing this? You should have do this. I mean, you've done it before. Why can't you do it now? And that's really very difficult to deal with when you cannot support your family in the manner that you used to. So they had to find other avenues of trying to deal with that stress. I personally went through that. When I got out of service, I didn't have a job. I went and applied for all sorts of jobs, Burger King, McDonald's, you name it. I applied for it. And I was told, why do you want to work? Go on welfare. I did not do 20 years in the military to go on welfare. And so that was a struggle for me. And then after I got through that, I decided I was not going to allow another brother or sister go through what I went through. Mine wasn't as bad as some, but it was bad enough for me. I had 4 kids to feed, and I was alone. I had to find a way. So my way was to get an education, go back, get a job, well, money, and then I was able to support my family, and I had people to actually help me do things, and get what I need to do. And then I said, you know what? These other veterans are going to have the same thing. Why aren't I helping them? And when I worked for the VA, one of the things that I did was I had a week-long training session after they got their schooling, stuff like that. And I had employers come in and give them, guidance on how to apply for jobs, what to do, what not to do. And then a lot of them got employed by these folks. Well, the VA and the courts are not doing that now. They get out of the military and don't even shake the hand anymore and say, okay, see you later, have a nice life. They just said, okay, move, I got somebody else to do. And so they don't know what to do. They don't know how to, turn on the utilities. They don't know how to apply for apartment or house or buy a house. Those things you have to learn. And the families, they have to learn too to support their veteran. And a lot of them are still going through that, A lot of them don't work, don't want to work. And so somebody have to support the family. And we just have to find ways of doing it without them being in trouble. So what I do as a mentor for the veterans is I find out what it is they need, what got them to where they are, and what can we do to help them out of that spot. They still got to go through their law stuff, get their crime satisfied and go through training and go through counseling and all of this. But at the same time, they're still not being heard. They kind of herd them in. I call it the cattle thing, or you herd the cattle in the same place and all you want to do is get them in there, get the milk out and send them on their way. Well, there's been some veterans who've been getting in trouble, they're going through everything and they say, well, I can't do this because a good example is one veteran that he keeps getting in trouble with the court because number one, he don't drive, so he can't get to the court. He has friends that are not reliable to get him to the court. He had to go back, on the other side of the country, and the plane was delayed. So that made him late for court, and he almost went to jail for that. But the court did not know. They do not do the screening that they need to do to find out what we need to do to help these veterans. So, with that being said, when it comes to holidays, everybody needs, to celebrate something. And so I always like to go in my little box, and come up with things. And Thanksgiving to me is one of the happiest times. And I knew I personally didn't have the money to do it, but I knew if I reach out to the community and ask for assistance, and that's why I came to you, Evelyn, and a couple of folks and asked for turkeys. And the folks that was in our court in North Las Vegas, no one takes care of them. They go to court, go home, and they wonder what's going to happen before they go to court again. So we were able to get them all turkeys, the ones that eat meat, and we gave them turkeys. And they still thanking me for it, And I told them, it wasn't just me, but they still thanking for that. And then for Christmas, I have 11 grandkids myself, so you got to keep them happy. And I said, what else can we do? Because when you do things to motivate the veterans, they're going to do a better job. They're going to want to get better. They're going to want to do, what you need them to do. So I had the community, the next door community, to reach down and donate toys. We had tons of toys donated. And I gave everyone, I found out their ages of the kids, whatever, girl, boy, whatever. And I got all the toys and bicycles and whatever. And I took them to the court, and I asked the judge, you got to stay in your lane. You don't just do things. You have to ask the judge about it. And they was like, wow, sure, okay. And then they decided at that last moment to have a luncheon for them, which I thought was fantastic. So we had a luncheon, and we gave out the toys, and some of the parents were just crying because they didn't know if they wouldn't even have a Christmas for the kids. So they got toys for the kids, and they got food for the kids, and and that just filled my heart, And that's what I do is like you have bigger people out here doing bigger things and giving a whole lot more, but this is a small scale. But we took care of all the veterans, and now each one of those veterans, they do what they're told to do. They check in with me every week. If they have an issue or something, they let me know, and then I get it straightened out with the court program, and they're getting through a lot better. And the court's saying, I don't know what you're doing, but whatever it is, don't stop because these veterans are cooperating. They're doing what they're told to do. And because you got to treat them like they're human beings. A lot of times they get treated like criminals. They're not criminals. They just, Uncle Sam, take them in. They say, okay, you do this, you do that, and we'll take care of you. When Uncle Sam's done with you, he spits you out and say, all right, have a nice life. And a lot of people are broken. They have medical issues. They don't know where to go from there because parents told them what to do when they were in school. Uncle Sam told them what to do when they went in the military. And then when they get out of the military, what do? They don't have a clue.
No.
So it's up to us, fortunate and unfortunately, we have to take over and show them how to take care of themselves.
Mhm.
And that's basically what I do is I show them the way. I'm not expert on everything, but I know what it's like. And each one of them, they'll say something like, well, you don't know what I'm going through. You don't know. I said, look, I've been there. And I give them examples of my life. And they go like, wow. And I said, yeah. I said, and that's why I'm here to help you. Because I don't want you to have that happen to you. I don't want you to get in that position and not take care of your family. And I want your kids to be good and not get in trouble or get in gangs. Like I said, I raised 4 kids in Nevada. And we went through it all. When my one daughter was 14 years old, she disappeared for a year. I had no clue where she was, and I had no one helping me. In fact, I was told, "Why are you putting this out? You're not supposed to be." And I said, "Hey, that's my child. I do what I want to do to find my child." After a year, she came back. Both of my boys, they never got into a gang. They had gang friends, but they never got in the gang. Because I was one of those parents that went around, got to know their families, find out who their parents were. And when they said they were going to be home and they wasn't home, I went looking for them. Or when they got old enough to be on their own and they went out drinking, I said, I don't care what time it is. You call me, no questions asked, I'll pick you up. And I've done that many times. And then after that, they both end up in the military because they wanted to serve. One retired from the Air Force, the other one did 8 years in the Marine Corps. So those are things I share with these other veterans and saying, you are not alone and we can help you and we will help you. And I try to get their kids, like if they're not in sports or anything, I try to get them in positions or find out who can help them and sponsor them into the sports, And I try to talk to some of the young ladies, fast little ladies, and tell them how to respect themselves and how to do what you want to do in your future. You don't have to be out here, doing all this because your friends are doing it. Set goals and achieve each goal. And when I tell this to my veterans and I tell them something in my life that relates to theirs, then they go, oh, wow, there is a way out. I can do this. And so that's what I do. And I go on cruises, I go traveling, and I meet up with veterans. And I say, here's my card. Call me. I'll help you with your benefits. I don't do it myself, but I put them in a position to who can help them and never have a veteran pay for his benefits. They earn that.
Right. Well, that brings me to wanting to say something to Sandra about the barriers that we go through and barriers as women, as Black women. And I really think Shirley Chisolm, again, should be talked about on MLK.
My idol. Yeah.
I think she should be talked about for Black History. I think she needs to be talked about next
month. They
need
to teach it in school. They don't do it in school.
Yeah, they don't. So Sandra, I know you are doing something special that's coming up, and I would love for you to tell everyone about what you're doing.
Sure. So the Saturday event that Evelyn mentioned, what we did is we talked about Shirley Chisolm on the Saturday of MLK weekend. And
Oh,
I think that might be a good thing to do is talk about Shirley on Saturday and then Martin on Monday and talk about,
mhm.
both of them and the things that they did the same way that we do now with Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta, that we now know that Dolores Huerta was with him doing all these things. And we talk about both of them. I think we could do the same thing with Martin Luther King Jr. and Shirley Chisholm because they both did really important things. But then I discovered that Netflix is actually doing a biopic on
Yes.
Shirley Chisholm, and it's going to be premiered on March 22nd. So we're going to do a viewing over at the West Charleston campus of CSN, College of Southern Nevada, in the K building in room 101, so that we
Mhm.
can watch the biopic and then have a discussion about her life and, if we think the biopic does her justice or not. But then start a conversation about how do we make sure that we always are talking about Shirley,
Mhm.
that Shirley becomes, just as ubiquitous as other, sports stars or movie stars or Taylor Swift and her boyfriend, whoever he is.
Mhm.
Um, you know, because she needs to be remembered because she was somebody that in her own way broke down barriers and advanced things
Yes.
for civil rights.
Yes.
Yes.
Led the path for us women.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that, as black women, white women, yellow women, brown women, all of us. Because we still haven't finished that fight.
Hmm.
What women started voting, what, uh, 46 or something like that, 45. I think, well, I know black women did anyway. That's when they started letting us vote. And my mother, I don't know if she ever voted because it was just never, that important in the community.
Hmm.
And I never even knew to vote until after I joined the military, and then I just started learning more about it and stuff like that. And I tell these young people, you need to read up, you need to learn who's doing what and why, and pick your battles and go vote. Because their votes are
Right.
important too. And if
Yep.
they don't vote, of course the people who got it rigged are going to always win, because they got it that way. And no one is teaching these young kids or young men and women on what it is to vote and how they should, learn
And
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 go vote.
that brings me to the next topic I want to do before we get ready to get off of this is
Mhm.
before this conversation we have. It's about the young vote too, because me and Sandra have discussed that a lot. That the young and it's not that I don't know. I just think that some households don't talk about certain
That's
things, right, Sandra? Right? Down
Hmm.
they just
right.
there's not people teaching morals and values and I'm just gonna put it out here. You have, and sometimes the having a kid at 16 happens to 4 generations deep and there's nobody in there that's breaking the cycle. And I know, Sandra,
Right.
you can talk about because you've been really really pushing it, who's also had me push my grandbabies that I'm raising, and both you have, to make sure
Mhm.
they're in that space with me, right? So Sandra, before we get off here, could you a
Sure.
quick rundown on what you're doing with the young, and then Donna will let you finish out and then we can wrap it
Mhm.
up.
Sure. So here's my motto: She who knows the rules, rules. And
Mhm.
so, what I try to tell my students when they're complaining about things, I'm like, do you know how to address that problem? Do you know who's in charge of fixing that thing? Do you know how to advocate for yourself? And a lot of times, I hear the same thing from my students as what you both said. No one ever talked to me about this. No one ever said that voting would change things. And so, what I want to make sure is I want young people to feel empowered to be
Mhm.
able to say, not only will I go and vote, but I might run for office, or I'm definitely going to go advocate. I'm going to find out who does drug court and talk to that person because they're probably an elected judge that's going to need to go up for reelection. But do I need to go to the legislature? Do I need to talk to the city council? To feel empowered that you're a constituent and you're somebody that can vote and then also do advocacy. And so I'm
Right.
trying to get more and more young people to start feeling empowered that way. But I definitely this primary that we just had, the presidential preference primary,
Yeah. Mhm.
I heard from so many young people, they're like, why isn't there more choice? There's so many people that could be running that the parties are telling them, like they told Shirley, no, you
Yep.
can't run. You got to stay out. And we know that's what they're
Mhm.
doing because that's what they did to
Mhm.
Shirley. And the young people are saying, please give us some variety, give us some choice.
Mhm.
And I've told them, I said, don't just feel like I'm not going to vote, I quit. What are you going to do about this? Work on a ballot question, run for office, get into the political party, do something, but fight back, just like Shirley
Right.
did. Fight back.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
when they tell you to stop, do it even more, because that's exactly
Right.
what she did. And so
Yeah.
I want to talk about the way, no matter what somebody said to her, she said, "Oh, bless your heart," and then did it anyway.
Yep. Mhm.
Oh, yes. That
Yep.
is definitely the motto here, right? We're going to
Yes.
do it anyways, you know.
See,
And
I've been around enough of my Black friends. I know what "bless your heart" means.
Yep.
That's
Bless
cool.
your
I know
heart.
that one now.
Yes, yes. My
Yeah.
great grandmother used to say that a lot. Yes, she
Mhm.
did. And Donna too, and about some of the things that, you know, that you did out here, and you even showed me the strength and going up to these that are elective and action and asking about what I want, right?
Mhm.
That's something that we need to do, right? Like, why are we letting the electives tell us what we want?
Mhm.
Why are we not telling them what we want? You're
Exactly.
running.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
owe us. We don't owe you. You're the one that worked for the people, right, ladies? So
Mhm.
so Donna, I know that's something that you can hit on a little bit too before we jump off here, but to talk about, you know, some of those things too, about asking those that are running about veteran causes.
Right. And that's something that I do. I've been doing it for a few years now. Is everyone who is running for election, I sent a letter out to them and inviting them to meet with me and a few other folks to do an endorsement based on what are they going to do for the veterans. No, do they even know what a veteran is? How are you going to help the veteran community? And I'm revising the questions again too. I revise it every time because I want them to really understand who we are, what our needs are, and what we will do if they will do what they're supposed to do and help us. Because there's a lot of veterans out here that don't vote too because they don't have a clue and they just want to go, get out of here and don't worry about it. But the
Yeah.
more folks who vote and get their candidates in office, you can go to those people, even if you didn't vote for them, you go to them and say, hey, I would like to see this happen. Or what about this? Because they want to hear that. They want you to come to them and let them know what the needs are. But if no one goes to them, all they're going to do is either what they want to do or they're going to do what the other party tells them to do. We
To
don't
that.
want that. We want them to understand and get educated on the veteran needs. And one of the things I do as well is once they get elected, I call them. I talk to them. I let them know that we're still here and what our needs are and what's going on. And they actually call me back and say, Miss Lee or Donna, what can I do about this situation? How can I help? And they literally do help. Once we get
Yeah.
them in office, they really want to communicate and they really want to help. So we got to keep moving forward on doing that. And even though we may have folks sometimes that are like trying to push against us and shut us down, we can't let them do that.
Mhm.
We got to
And
keep
and
going
even
strong.
Sandra is doing a nonpartisan event March 30th,
Yep.
actually the same day that we are doing our veteran event out at the
Mhm.
veteran community center in North Las Vegas. And I
Okay.
really love that because it's so interesting to me because then I get to find out about them and then to
Hmm.
find out that a lot of them that are running have never did no community service, y'all.
No.
And I'm like, how can you be of service if you never
Yeah.
did community
You
service?
have to get in and know your community before you
Right.
can,
Right.
Just
run
making
for that.
sense, right, ladies? And to
Yep.
I like it to where they'll be in the room and we get to go in there and ask questions. We don't have to sit and wait to raise our hand, right? And
Nope.
oh my gosh, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna do it at the big ballroom at the student unit at the North Las Vegas campus. Put
Okay.
tables all around the room, and the
Hmm.
candidates will get space at the table where they can have their signs and their flyers and their buttons and whatever. And then voters get to go up and say, "Okay, you're on my ballot. I'd
Hmm.
like to ask you the questions I want to ask,"
Absolutely.
so that
Yes.
every voter gets their questions asked and
And then it
answered.
opens them up more to say, oh, yeah, I can do this. I will
Yes.
help you.
Yes.
Call me, get
Yes.
their number, get the walk in privilege.
Yep.
They really want to help, some
Yep.
of them. But we just we just want to make sure that they all are clued in on what our needs are and that we're serious about, you know, moving forward and being successful and to help them to help us.
Yes. Yes.
That's
But
what we want
I
to
want to do an event where Evelyn can walk in and talk about, women getting into the building trades, and then
do.
you
Hmm.
can walk in and
Yes.
talk about veteran issues.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And hold them accountable, y'all, because
Yeah.
that's the whole biggest thing of this, right?
Mhm.
Is that they get in and they forget that they are in there for the
Yeah,
people,
for
right?
purpose. Yeah.
I
So
mean,
we
they
got to
just forget.
remind them of that, and have
Mhm.
more of us remind them of that. And don't be combative. Go in on friendly fires and just say, "Hey, these are some issues that we're having in the community.
Yep.
How can you help us with this?"
Yes.
Put it on them to let them know that we're asking for their assistance. We're not demanding it. And my mom always said, "You get more with honey than you do with salt
Exactly.
or vinegar."
Yep.
It's true.
Well,
So
we're
we
going
got
to hand every voter that walks through the door is going to get a card and a pen, and we're going to say,
Mhm.
take a moment and write down 2 or 3 of the issues that are most important to you. And then
Yes.
as you're talking to the candidates, write the candidates' names down, and
Mhm.
you can say, this
Ask
is
those
how
questions.
this is how they align with my issues, so that you have
Mhm.
that going forward.
Right.
So when
Yeah, I'm
it's
gonna
time
need
to
that too.
vote, when it's
Mhm.
time to vote, you can go, oh, here's the 3 or 4 candidates that really
Mhm.
align the
Yeah,
best with me.
Well,
absolutely.
can we real quick before we have to jump? This has been beautiful,
Yep.
and thank you both for. But can we real quick? You both give your email and whatever you're comfortable with giving before we get
Mhm.
off. We'll start with you, Donna, please. Your
Okay.
email.
My email is Donna_Green2000 at yahoo.com.
Thank you.
And mine's pretty easy. It's Sandra.Cosgrove@gmail.com.
Thank
Mhm.
you.
Mhm.
And mine is Evelyn at NevadaWit.org. And
Gotcha.
is there any closing things any of you two want to say? If there's any you want to get out here, but I really love this conversation, and it's really real out here, the struggle
Mm.
for us women. It really is.
Yep.
It's really sad that I'm a veteran. I check all the boxes, but I'm still having problems with my black men veterans out here. I'm
Mhm.
still having problems with my black women. And then
Yep.
I have to have white women get on Zooms and phone calls with me to make sure that that's ridiculous, everybody.
It
But
is. It is. Yeah.
I just love
Look,
that.
keep doing it. Keep
And
doing it.
right, and
Yep.
keep
Yeah.
moving, and the struggle is real.
Mhm.
And again, I think that we need to be teaching and talking more about Shirley
Our
Chisholm
young folks. Yeah. Mhm.
Yes.
and
Yes.
to the young folks in our barriers, because it's real. Women has issues, y'all. It's
Yes.
really real out here for
But
us.
the thing that I was when I was watching all her videos, she went through so much, and yet at the end of her life, she wasn't bitter. She
No,
was kind of just joking around and laughing, and she was like, "I did what I did."
That's it. Yep.
wow.
I thought, what a woman! Wow.
Yes.
Absolutely. Every
Yes.
day is a new day. Set a new
Yep.
goal.
So now we need to say, what would Shirley do?
Yeah. Well, there you go.
What would Shirley do? She'd keep fighting. That's what she would do.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yep.
That
That's
is
what
what
we're
she
going to
would
do
do.
too. We're going to do that. And again, as you said earlier, Dr. Sandra, is we got to reach these young women that are
Yeah.
still in high school or right in the middle there where they want to learn. And we got to teach them to value and be proud of their bodies and their minds and their souls,
Yep. To be
because that is
powerful.
more valuable than anything else that anybody could give them.
Yes.
Amen to that.
Amen. Yep.
Amen to that.
Mhm.
We are very powerful, and we're more
Yes.
powerful in numbers. And
Yes.
we
Yep.
are. We are. And actually the race card has really, to me, it does play, but it doesn't, right? If us
Hmm.
females would just go together and do this together, but we
Right.
don't do that, right? We get separated, and we again, I believe is we forget where we come from. We get in these
Yeah.
positions, we forget the struggle, and we're in the corporate part comes out, right? And oh man,
Yeah.
we gotta,
Well, most of us women, what
Right.
we do is we brand ourselves. We brand ourselves and say, well, they're not going to let me or they're not going to want me to. You got to do it. It's better to ask for forgiveness than
Mhm.
permission.
ooh,
Yep.
and that is the truth of that,
Yep.
everybody. That is the truth. That is the truth. Well, I guess we're
Okay.
wrapping up here.
Well,
All
thank you
right.
for having me.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
Yeah.
wow,
Excellent.
I just appreciate both of you, of coming on here. This is new for me, but you know what? I'm gonna hang in there. And like I
Let's
said,
start somewhere. Hmm.
I really was not gonna do this. I really wasn't. And then things kept happening, and I went, you know what? We need to speak about this, and we need to have
Yes.
true conversations. and we can't be scared.
No. No.
Well, I mean, there's a reason why we're all older, because it gets to a point when you're an older woman where it's like, whatever, I don't care.
There you go.
Be mad at me, I don't care.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Right?
Mhm.
I'm
That's true.
retired.
Or
I'm
I'll say, let me see if I care about that. No, I don't.
No. No.
Nope, I checked and I don't.
Yep. I understand my elders
Yep.
now a lot more.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. God bless older women.
absolutely.
I'm telling you, age is something, right? Like wine,
Mhm.
right? Oh my
There.
goodness.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Age
It's
just
but
like
it's
fine
but it's
wine.
still beautiful
Mhm.
to be in this space though, ladies, because not everyone can be in this space that we're in, regardless of age.
That's right.
I really think this is a space that we're in. We finally done. I don't want to say it's the magic tree or the
Mhm.
I don't know, but it's like we done found ourselves, and we
Yes.
are satisfied with ourselves, and we're okay
Absolutely.
with ourselves, no matter.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter what we, even though I do care about my hair, but still,
Well, I got to grow some
no.
first. You know?
No, yeah. Don and I are like, yeah,
Yeah, like push it down.
it's good.
But it's just beautiful feeling. You walk into a room and you're no longer worried and, oh my gosh, wait a minute. And am I going to get a paycheck? Oh, wait a minute. Am I going to? No, it's like, whatever. And like Sandra always says to me, let me grab your hand and let's jump off this cliff. You're going to bump your head. You're going to have marks, but you know what?
You'll
You're
get
going
up
to
and
land
shake
on
it
your
off.
feet.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Shake it off.
And that stays in my brain set.
Mhm.
And I think about both you women when I'm on the phone and you guys are not on there, and when I walk into a room and it's something, because you think it doesn't happen like that, but it does, because you got to draw from your inner strength.
Right.
And you think, gosh, what would Sandra do? Wait a minute, what would Donna do with these veteran Black men in here coming at me and that, and that's where I go to, I think, just to calm my own brain down,
Mhm.
and to calm myself down, and to know that I can do this.
Yeah. And they're actually starting to embrace now because they see that they can't chase you away, steer you away, or move you away. So they're starting to embrace, to want to know more about, well, how did you get there? I want to
Right.
get there.
Mhm.
So we just got to keep being us, keep believing in yourself, keep knowing that if you don't do it, nobody else is going to do it.
No,
Exactly.
You got to lead the way.
and that's the truth. That is the real truth. And again, to bring the youth in, because they're important. That's our
Yep.
social security. Everybody
That's our
laughs when I say that, but that's the truth.
Yep.
We
Yep.
don't, and it's like we're almost revolting back to MLK days.
Mhm.
I swear, I feel, even though I was not in that area or
I
in that
was.
era, any of that, but
Yep.
I feel that's where we're at again.
Yep.
And if we don't teach these youth, like you're doing, Sandra, you're doing so much for the college students, for the youth, even for my grandkids, empowering
Yeah.
them. But if
Mhm.
we don't do this and get these kids,
Yeah, we're going
relax,
to have a summit. We're going to have a summit soon for young teenage women, so we can teach them how to respect and love themselves in order to be successful. Because they're not learning it at home, they're not learning it in the school. So we have to show them how to be proud of themselves, be proud of their bodies, and be proud of their minds.
wow. And that's a whole nother podcast right there.
Yep.
We
To be
definitely
continued.
on that road
Yep.
on
Yeah, to be
education,
continued.
because that's another topic
Mhm.
that I would love to hit on. And again, and some of my guests are going to come back repeatedly, because I think we all tie in together. And so again,
Mhm.
we're females, and we got so much going on with mental health, homelessness, rape, bullying,
Yes,
education. I mean, there's so many subjects that we're all tied to as women, and it doesn't matter what nationality you are.
that's
And
true.
we all are going through the same struggles, and we all went through the same struggles with our kids, and
Mhm.
now
Yeah.
going through it with our grandkids and stuff
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. And yeah, this is real, ladies, and this is so
Mhm.
beautiful, and this is what I wanted. I wanted us all to, jump in and do this. And Sandra, again, oh my gosh, the blessings and things you've done with civics too, and showing me that there's a difference between civics and politics.
Oh, yeah.
And now I find
Mhm.
myself out
Right.
here doing the same thing when I
Mhm.
get well, you're a veteran and you're not supposed to this. And I'm like, I'm not political.
Not at all.
I'm talking about civics.
Mhm.
I submitted a bill, and yes, I have nonprofits, but like Sandra said too, you need to read the IRS stuff information,
Yep. Yep.
and it does not say anything we can't do civics. It doesn't say that nonprofits are. It does not say that.
That's right.
Yep.
And
So
it's
keep
what we need to
doing
be
what
doing.
you're doing. You're doing it.
Hey, we doing it.
Yeah.
One thing I know, when you learn that the nonprofit is not yours, it's the people,
Mm-hmm.
then things change.
Keep moving. Yep.
Yep.
We're gonna rise. We shall overcome.
Oh,
I've heard that before.
well, we've been on here an hour, and she
Yep.
hasn't cut us off yet. So I know 1 hour is our take on
Yeah.
there. But
So thank you, ladies.
All right. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
all right.
All right.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
right. Bye, ladies.
Bye.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.